Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday, the 15th day of December 2022. I hope you're all safe and healthy today. I hope your family is also safe and healthy, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food and shelter and clothing as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders, who every day are trying to save lives, and those that pick up garbage to keep streets and sidewalks, parks, stairwells, buildings clean. And those also that make deliveries of like food and water and mail for our convenience, sometimes also in danger to themselves. Double blessings on the men and women who are out here trying to help rescue and deliver and recover the teenagers and the children who are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. The victims also of pornography and child pornography, prostitution, child prostitution, human trafficking, sex slavery, and double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and those perverts that make this disgusting industry possible. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and mostly children that live on the streets of the United States of America today, and there are millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There was a basketball game last night. Now, even before the basketball game, between Sunday and last night's game, very important development. No, it wasn't a trade, though there's a lot of stupid rumors about trades. No, it was Julius Randle admitting that he cannot put his teammates in bad positions and that he was being selfish. I have never heard Julius Randle say that. Never. Now, I don't know if it was because somebody talked to him. It doesn't even matter. The fact that he came out and said that set a tone, because you see, as we have always said, brethren, when Julius Randle is right, the Knicks could beat anybody. But the question is, you never know what you're going to get. You don't know whether you're going to get good Julius or bad Julius. You don't know whether you're going to get Julius that's going to hustle his tail off or Julius that's going to let guys just run by him and score. You just don't know what you're going to get. But that is a turning point, in my view. That's a major turning point. It doesn't mean, as some try to assert, that he's going to not do it again. What it does mean is that he's cognizant that he has an issue. He's cognizant that he has to deal with this issue for the sake of the team. That's big time. That allows other players to be more willing to intercede, as Evan Fournier tried to do last year to no effect. But now, with the team knowing that he's aware, he's held accountable, he's holding himself accountable, that's big time right there. Big time, big time, big time. So I'm looking forward to better things going forward because of that. Because of that. Now, interesting, the Chicago Bulls lost to the New York Knicks 128-120. The Chicago Bulls fall to 11-16. And the Knicks rise to 15-13, sole possession of the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, it's interesting when you look at the two teams because the Chicago Bulls did what many of you in Knick Nation have always pining for them to do. Notice what they did. They went and hired a guy that was very successful in college. Went to the pros, was successful in Oklahoma City, and they brought him to Chicago. Then they went and they signed big-time free agents, DeMar DeRozan for $85 million. They went and got Lonzo Ball from New Orleans for $80 million. Then they traded away draft assets to go get Nikola Vucevic from Orlando. They tried to buy a champion. They drafted pretty well in that they got Kobe White, they got Ayu Dosunmu, and of course they got Pat Will 5th overall 2 years ago. But they were really banking on these big name free agents and trade pieces that they got. And look what they are. And who did they lose to? A Knicks team that has in their rotation Mitchell Robinson, drafted in 2018, R.J. Barrett, drafted in 2019, Quentin Grimes, drafted in 2021, Jericho Sims, drafted in 2021. Miles McBride, drafted in 2021. Isaiah Quickly, drafted in 2020. That's who the Knicks have. They signed Isaiah Hartenstein as a free agent, 2 years, short-term deal, $16 million. Then they signed, of course, Julius Randle, 4 years, $100 million, which is the point we started with. And that's their rotation. And then when Obi Toppin comes back, Obi Toppin, 8th overall pick, 2020. That's the rotation. Okay? That the Knicks beat the Chicago Bulls with last night. You could throw out the records when the Knicks and Bulls played. And this is even before the Jordan years, to be quite honest with you. It goes all the way back to when Norm Van Leer, Bob Love, and Jerry Sloan were on the Bulls. They had some battles with the Bulls all the time. Then, of course, you had the Jordan years. Then the post-Jordan years, you had the years with Tom Thibodeau, Joakim Noah, and Derrick Rose when he was in his prime. And they used to spank us. But not no more. Now it's our turn. And it's good to see. Last night it was a battle. I expected that. Like I said, you throw out the records when it's the Chicago Bulls. Throw that out because this is going to be a battle. They could have only won one game all year. Or we could have only won one game all year. It's going to be a battle in Chicago against the Bulls regardless. And so that's what it was. The Knicks were maintaining a 10-point lead most of the game. But then, like I said, every NBA team at some point, usually in the third quarter, makes a run. They made theirs late third, early fourth. They started making their run. The Knicks withstood the run, but it went into overtime. We had the last shot. There were some very, very questionable calls by the referees last night. Very, very questionable calls. R.J. Barrett fouled out, but R.J. had 22 points, 8 of 17 shooting, 4 of 3 from the three-point line, 6 boards, tremendous defense. Key defensive play in the fourth quarter for the Knicks. Key block there. Second game he's done that. R.J. is coming into what I always thought he was going to become a better version of Jimmy Butler. Then you got, of course, Mitchell Robinson, 8 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 10 boards, but 6 of them on offensive end, and they were big time. When he was getting them offensive rebounds and giving the Knicks extra possessions, that was big. And he had some questionable calls on him as well, but he played through it. He only had 2 fouls for the night. Jalen Brunson, gritty. I told you, and some of y'all were asking if he's going to play, and I told you, if he don't have a torn tendon or a broken bone, he's going to play, no matter how sore he is. If it's not a torn tendon of some sort or a broken bone, he's going to play. And he did. And some, and including myself, were hoping that maybe they might give D Rose a couple minutes. He was in Chicago. They didn't play that. They came with the crew. They came with the regular crew. Last night, as a matter of fact, Tom Thibodeau went 8-man rotation, which he tends to do sometimes because Jericho Sims only played 8 minutes. So he went with an 8-man rotation, which is the starting 5 with Hartenstein, McBride, and Quickly. Okay, and his starters played heavy minutes. Randle played 46, Robinson played 36, Brunson played 39, Barrett played 34, Grimes played 37. That's Tom Thibodeau. That's typical Tom Thibodeau, especially in a game like this that went into overtime. The Knicks had 25 assists last night. That's a nice number. We like to see that. The turnovers were way too high, though. 15 turnovers. That and I think that in part is what led to the 120 points that they scored, which is higher than what the Knicks been giving up recently. But it was really 15 turnovers by the Knicks. That's a lot versus only 12 for Chicago. So this is the thing with Jalen Brunson at the point guard. He is intelligent enough. He has enough IQ and he analyzes these games. And so they all understand what they need to do Friday night. They need to tighten up on that turnover number, and they need to really tighten up on that defense a little bit. But they held the Bulls to 32% shooting from 3, which is big time because, as I mentioned, Bulls had like 3 or 4 guys shooting at least 36% or better on their team. So, and a couple of guys shooting in the 40s from 3. So they're a dangerous 3-point shooting team. The Knicks held them to 32%. That's typical Knicks. That's what they've been doing since the change has made in the lineup. They totally dominated them on the board, 48-31. And it was obvious and evident between Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. They was doing work. I was very concerned. The one move that Tom Thibodeau had me on the edge of my seat about last night, they were starting to make their run. The Chicago Bulls were starting to make a run. And he's going to take out Mitchell Robinson. I was like, okay, Mitchell Robinson played a lot of minutes. And they brought in Vucevic. And then he brings in Hartenstein. And they immediately make a run. Okay? because Hartenstein couldn't guard Vucevic or anybody else on the floor. I wasn't as much concerned watching DeRozan do work. Listen, DeRozan been doing that to everybody in the NBA for 14 years. It's like I said, it's the league. There are guys that are really, really good. You could know what they're going to do and still can't do nothing about it. That's why they're in the league. And DeRozan's one of those dudes. He dropped 32 last night. He was killing us in the mid-range. And his area is around the foul line. And he'll work all around the court to get to that area. And when he get there, if you're not there to meet him before he gets the basketball, it's lights out. And that's what he was doing last night. Levine was 11 for 23, 25 points, and he was getting to the hole. But to me, it didn't seem like he was as big a factor down the stretch as DeRozan was. Vucevic, I wasn't worried about him at all. Not with Mitch Rob out there. Even with Jericho Sims out there, I wasn't worried about him at all. Caruso is usually a Knick killer. He was under control. We had him under wraps. Under wraps. So overall, it was a tremendous win for the Knicks in Chicago. The fifth straight win. And so we got 5 on it. Now, they got Friday night in Chicago. I like our chances because now, that's what, today is Thursday. They get a night's rest. They get a night's rest tonight. They get rest during the day tomorrow. Jalen Brunson gets to heal a little bit, and they come back and play again. To me, the Knicks are simply the superior team. It's as simple as that. Now, the thing is that, like I said, from night to night, any NBA team could beat any other NBA team. That's the way the league is because it's the league. But when you're playing the same team twice, generally speaking, a superior team would have the advantage because they can now make adjustments. Now, both teams are going to make adjustments, but they can make adjustments. They know how to cut off and they got the talent to cut off your best assets and dominate you in their areas. So I'm very confident that the Knicks could win Friday in Chicago. So I'm looking for that. They're healthy, exception Brunson, they're pretty healthy, the Knicks are. And Obi's out, but I'm saying we got Sims. And like I said, he played Sims 8 minutes last night. I really didn't get that. I thought Sims should have got more minutes than Hartenstein, even though, Hartenstein finally hit a three-pointer. We've been talking about him being a stretch 5, whatever. He finally hit a three-pointer last night. But I'd rather see more Jericho. But, we'll let that ride the way it ride. It's all good. So again, the Knicks really did a great job last night. All areas. They gave up the 120, but this is a win that they ground out when they weren't playing their best. And that's the sign of a winning team. Sole possession of the 6th seed. Another good thing is Atlanta got beat by Orlando last night. Always love when the Leprechaun loses. They got beat by Orlando last night. Toronto got beat by the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento Kings, I told you, are good. The Knicks didn't look good against the Knicks or Philly, but they're a good team. They beat Toronto on the second night of a back-to-back in Toronto. That's pretty darn good, So it's a dogfight in the East. And the Knicks are in the thick of that dogfight. So if we could beat Chicago on Friday, tomorrow, they put a lot of pressure on the East because that'll be their 16th win. We'll put a lot of pressure on the upper echelon of the East, which the Knicks are now climbing into, which is what we thought. We're still sticking with 45 wins as a minimum. Some of y'all don't get that. I'm not saying they're going to win exactly 45 games. I'm saying 45 as a minimum. They can certainly win more than that, but I'm thinking 45 is a minimum win. That should get them to top 6 in the East, which I think they will be. They could definitely move into between 4 and 6. They definitely could do that. They definitely could do that. Now, I want to let y'all know before you start jumping off cliffs later, they're gonna get another losing streak. I don't expect another losing streak to last more than 2 or 3 games, but they're gonna have that. Every team in the league does. So some of y'all need to calm down. They're not gonna go undefeated from here. Okay, they're gonna lose some games. But they're going to win more than they lose. And right now, obviously, they're riding a 5-game winning streak. And they can win their 6th straight if they can beat Chicago Friday night. Big-time game Friday night. I'm glad it's not at Madison Square Garden. They don't do well on Friday night at Madison Square Garden. So I'm glad it's in Chicago. And they just stay there a couple of days. And it's almost like a home game for some of them. Like for D Rose is like home, and definitely for Jalen Brunson is like home. So he went to high school there, high school player of the year twice there. He got a whole bunch of peoples there. So for him, this could be even a distraction. So he got to stay cool. But I think we're good coming into Friday night against Chicago. So let's see what happens. We'll review that tomorrow. I want to see what the injury report looks like for tomorrow. Yeah, big win. 5 straight. Here we go, baby. Knicks are doing what they do. Y'all enjoy your Thursday. Shalom.